positive, good, wonderful. It is, I can see thumbs going up. Good morning, Graciela from Mexico. Thank you for that. At least there is life out there. I'm sitting here in my home office, talking to my laptop, and my dog sometimes looks at me and with this inquisitive look, and are you crazy? Talking to this machine, but I guess that's where we are at this point in time. Um, so it is 9:02 here in New York, and we are very close to 100 participants. So I think that's what we were hoping to get connected all over the planet. And there we go. Um, it's 100 right now. So let's get officially started. I'm sending you all a very, very warm welcome wherever you are. I wish I could welcome you here in New York. It's a beautiful winter day here today. Um, but unfortunately, we had to take the decision. When I say we, there were a number of people involved, the Bureau, of course, in your representation, the ECOSOC parent body, the colleagues from our conference services, etc., etc. And we had to take, it was a long discussion. We had to take the tough decision of making this year's meeting virtual once again. Um, I think it was just a little bit too early in the year. I really hope that later meetings in the year, um, and I'm thinking of the IAOS meeting in Poland that Dominic will help organizing for all of us, could be an opportunity to meet for all of us in person. And I'm very much looking forward to it. We were lucky to have the World Data Forum in Bern a couple of weeks ago, months ago, and it was very successful and it was nice and it emphasized the need for human interaction. But unfortunately, then came Omicron. The world took a turn in the wrong direction, but unfortunately, we are all recovering and the situation is getting better, but perhaps not quite fast enough for making global travel arrangements at this early point in the year. So I hope I can see you all later. I hope you're all in the year and I hope you're all well. Let's then get started and talk about the Statistical Commission. We put our new uplifting, I would almost say sexy logo there. I like that swing up. I think that hopefully represents us, this line. It will be a virtual meeting, but of course our fundamental principles are we want to make sure that everybody who wants to can be connected and that everybody who wants to make a substantive contribution to the meeting can actively participate. So we have experience from last year. It will be not quite the same. There are a couple of small but not insignificant differences. The platform is different. We will also have meetings in the New York afternoon, so we will have 4 hours instead of 2 hours a day. Um, so some of the things are the same from last year. Um, some of the things are slightly different. The idea of this global chat is an informal connection between all of us. This is not an official meeting. We don't have interpretation, and don't sue me if I give you information that later needs to be revised, because we still have 2.5 weeks to go, and some of the things still need to be worked out, especially with respect to the technical details. We do have a new secretary, Claudia Gross. You will have another German helping on the podium, but that is of course a coincidence. Claudia cannot join us today because she's serving another intergovernmental meeting, but we have had a number of meetings with her and she's really working very, very hard to make this meeting, our virtual meeting, what we want it to be as a statistical community. And I've said it many times, I'm very proud of us as a statistical community, how we have reacted to this crisis. I think we have moved even closer together. We have supported each other by being in touch. And I have all the confidence that also we will be able to manage this 43rd session of the Statistical Commission very well. So the agenda for this morning is here on the slide. We will give you some information on the timetable, the discussion items, logistical arrangements, how we will deal with written statements, what is the overall process, side events, and then we will have some we will point to resources like our website where we have frequently asked questions, and then we will have an open discussion. The time planning is about, we have about perhaps 25 minutes of introduction from our side, and you will not only have to listen to me, we will share it with Linda Hooper, and as you know, we have a fantastic team here in New York, Linda and Sabina and Lee Wang, all names who are very familiar to you and are very experienced in managing statistical commissions. So let's get started. The next slide gives us a little bit an overview of the timetable, and let me point you to the most important document perhaps at this point. That is L1 Ref 1, which is the timetable. Ref 1 is important because it's a revision of what you may have seen earlier on the website, which was based on the old days and the old time slots. What is new here, we now have moved our 4 meeting days in the week of the statistical commissions to Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. There won't be a meeting on Thursday. We have done that because to give us all a little bit more time to be connected, to make sure that our report on Friday captures really well what we have discussed. So we have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 4 hours discussions, a day of pause, and then on Friday we will wrap up the Statistical Commission. So the date changed technically from 1 to 4 March to 28 February to 2nd March plus 4 March. And the timing is different because the UN conference services and the interpreters in virtual meetings, they only offer us support for 4 hours a day, 2 times 2 hours, not for 2 times 3 hours, which will be a little bit of a challenge in terms of time management. But we have to stick also to the New York conference hours, which is now from 10 to 12 and then from 3 to 5 in the afternoon. I have to apologize to many colleagues around the world, Europe, Africa, and further into the East. This will push you into the night, and I'm very sorry about that, especially with the afternoon session. But we did not have a choice. Unfortunately, as this is a formal intergovernmental meeting, we depend on conference services and all the support that we are getting there, in particular interpretation. So the timing will be from 10 to 12 and 3 to 5 p.m., which I know is in the middle of the night in the Asia Pacific region. During those 4 days that we will actually be in session. I jumped a little bit ahead. Perhaps we can go one slide back. This is the overview of all of our discussion items. As you know, we have discussion and information items. Our agenda item 3 is all the discussion items, and discussion items will be introduced by somebody from that topic area. It could be somebody from my office. It could be somebody who's leading a working group in this area. And then we will have time for about 20 to 25 minutes of interactions for all of these items. And then there will be a summary from one of my staff trying to capture the main points of the discussion, including the written statements, and we will be talking about that in a minute. So the contributions at the UN meeting are the written statements that you will be having an opportunity to provide ahead of the meeting, plus all the things that will be said during the formal sessions. Those will lead to the summary and ultimately to our session report. You can see this is our agenda item 3, discussion items. It goes all the way to why. We do have quite a long list of items for discussion. So we will have to be very disciplined in our time management. This is going to be our biggest challenge. But as I said at the beginning, we want to create multiple avenues to make sure that your opinions and your views and your guidance on the various areas are captured. Fortunately, the documents on all of these agenda items have been out since December in English, and since about, I guess, 2 weeks ago, now in all of the languages, or more recently in all of the languages, which would give you an opportunity, I hope, to review them all and make your contributions in the area that you feel most strongly about. On almost all of the slides, you will find the reference to our website at the bottom. I hope you find the website useful, and we will really put all the information that is in any way relevant, substantive or logistically, um, on our website, and I hope you can find it there and find the information useful. The next slide had again our time panorama for that week. So again, repeating Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is off, and then Friday and morning and afternoon sessions from a New York point of view. This is going to be challenging because we only have, I talked about time management, we will only have about, you will see it in that famous document L1, Ref 1 timetable that is referenced at the bottom, that we have about 20-25 minutes per agenda item. That is not a lot. We will also work with our regional commission colleagues and invite them to perhaps have regional consultations and outreach among the countries of a particular region, and then perhaps come to a conclusion that one country of a region, if similar positions are being presented in the written statements or in your intention to talk, that perhaps somebody could be the leader of a region and make a particular contribution with a regional perspective during the session. So we are trying to facilitate that. If there are many time interventions under an item, I just wanted to alert you, we may have to suspend that item and come back to it later. We don't normally do that when we are physically in a meeting, but the reason for that would be a respect for the people who are getting up in the middle of the night to attend perhaps a particular agenda item. We don't want to fall behind, and then somebody in Asia Pacific gets up at literally 3 o'clock in the morning and expects that a particular agenda item will be discussed, and then we are 2 agenda items behind because there were too many interventions. So I hope you will understand, if we are falling behind, I will consult with the conference secretariat and the chair and suggest that if there are more requests for the floor on a particular agenda item that we haven't finished, we may have to suspend that agenda item and move on with the regular timetable to make sure that the people around the world who try to connect for a particular item are well served, and come back to pending interventions on previous items later. So those are some ideas. I turn at this point over to my dear friend and colleague Linda to explain some of the practical logistical arrangements. Thank you.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you, Stefan. So I'm going to talk to you today about some of the logistical arrangements for the upcoming commission. Yesterday, on Monday, the note verbal was sent out to all the permanent missions in New York for registering for the commission. Once again, we will be relying on the e-delegate portal through the permanent missions for registration. It's essential that the delegations are registered, including the emails, because the information for the platform and the passcode will be distributed via the e-delegate registrations. During the commission, we would like to encourage that the active participants and delegates join the meeting platform. I will come back to that again in a moment. So, oh, can you have next slide, please? This year, the platform for the commission will be Zoom. I was able to attend a meeting last week, and it is a much simpler layout and use. I'm sure that we've all had experience with Zoom at this point. The Zoom platform will offer the interpretation into the 6 official UN languages. It will also have the chat function. So as I said, registered delegates will receive the link and the passcode. We will be putting up more information about the connection requirements, the setups to join on the Commission's website, and also being distributed by email. The next slide, please. So last year we used the chat function in the Interprefy platform as a way to communicate with the Secretariat. We will be doing that again. Technicians will be on hand, so if there are technical difficulties, we will have some colleagues from the conference services side that will help with the technical aspects of the platform. There will be test calls provided for active delegates. There will also be an opportunity, the platform will open 1 hour before the commission sessions and meetings start. During the commission, we will again have webcasting on UN TV. And then I'm going to come now to the written statement. So if I can have the next slide, please. So we have, again, put together the written statement page. This opened this past Monday when the note verbal was shared. We had a great success last year with the written statements, and as you might remember, all of the statements were posted under the agenda items on this written statement part of the document page. Last year, we received close to 500 written statements, which provided a really rich basis for the discussions at the Commission, but also provided a wealth of information that UNSD colleagues, as well as the working groups and the bodies of the Statistical Commission, used in their work over the past year. Can you forward one? So this is the direct page to get to the written statements. Next slide, please. Okay, so for the written statements, it's very similar to last year. We are encouraging that the statements be provided by Thursday, the 17th of February. I know that's tighter than last year because last year the period was open a much longer time, but it still provides you ample time to review the documents that have been available since mid-January and provide statements. Written statements provide this opportunity for delegations to contribute to the substantive discussions. And the official documents, as you know, have actions to be taken by the Statistical Commission, and we encourage you to address the statements to those items which are being invited to have discussion. In general, statements should refer to these points that are raised, and they could include some more general statements, but we would like to request that they avoid detailed expositions of methodology or reporting of routine practices within your country. Next slide, please. Oh, sorry, wait, one other thing. Oh, no, it's fine, it's here. Sorry. So in terms of the submission, as last year, the statements should be submitted by the head of delegation or on behalf of the head of delegation representative or the designated official. Next, please. Okay, so as I mentioned, we'd like to have the statements about a week before the commission. This allows us, the Secretariat, to review all of the written statements. It also helps us then facilitate the discussions and the general debate during Commission Week. It also, then these statements are used to help inform the summaries that are prepared for the agenda items. So, I mean, the information is all in the website. So if you submit your statements to myself and Li Wang, and as I said, all statements will be uploaded, date stamped onto the Commission's website as soon as we receive them. Next slide. Okay, I'm going to now hand it back over to Stefan, and he'll go over some of the process during Commission Week. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Yeah, I hope I had this funny noise in my own microphone. I don't hear it anymore. I hope it's gone. I do
It's
you
gone. It's gone.
it's
Thank you.
yeah, I had this funny. Okay. And I don't honestly know what I did as usual. You just unplug and replug again in this new universe and struggling with our wonderful IT features on a day-to-day basis. So thank you, Linda, for all the hard work. And Linda will go down in history as the person who had to organize two virtual statistical commissions. And so I hope she will get to enjoy one real statistical commission in a room where we all meet each other one day. Just a remark on the written statements. I think that was really a big success. It was mind-blowing what was submitted, the substance in over 500 statements from around the world. I can assure you that my colleagues referred to those statements not only in preparation for the Statistical Commission. Many of your ideas or things that you put there that may have not made it in a report because it was a very specific or concrete proposal. Um, and the report, of course, should be perhaps a little bit more executive and action oriented. But your statements, and that is always true when you make oral statements in the room or you write them to us, are always very rich and provide perspective for us also to plan our capacity building activities and so on and so forth. So let me assure you that wealth of knowledge was amply used by me and my staff also throughout the year. And also we had a discussion with the Bureau and that was a feature that the Bureau had actually suggested to maintain in the future anyway, even if we come back to physical meetings, that we have a first round of written statements that would help us in the future to keep the Statistical Commission more executive and use our time really for the items where there may be real differences or real need for strategic guidance, whereas in other items where perhaps a good program was proposed by somebody and everybody agrees that this is okay, we can just spend a little bit less time and move this forward. So the written statements is really an important piece of the Statistical Commission by now and probably here to stay. Now, looking at the slide, this is how the time will flow. We have our 3 Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday meetings. We have the opening on Monday. The election of officers will probably go through what we call a written procedure. So next week or the week after next, we will probably send you a letter to all countries. This is the decision-making mechanism, our famous silence procedure that we will give everybody an opportunity to look at what is proposed, and if there is no comment, no breaking of the silence, within 3 days, whatever is proposed is accepted. This mechanism we will use twice for the Statistical Commission, once before the session in order to elect the Bureau, to approve the provisional agenda and the timetable and the observers. These are sort of some, let me call them housekeeping issues that we normally take care at the beginning of a session. We have never been very, very formal in that sense, but it needs to be done. It's intergovernmental protocol in the UN. So this will be in a so-called silence procedure. You will see that the week after next. And as I said, if nobody reacts, it's just like in the conference room. If a proposal is made from the podium, that somebody be the chair or in the bureau, and nobody opposes it, then it is accepted. And the same silence procedure we will use after the Statistical Commission's one. Once we have agreed on a text on Friday afternoon, we will have to go through this written procedure, send it out for everybody to see for 3 days. And again, if no objection is raised in the week after the Statistical Commission, the report will be formally adopted. So this is the normal course of our meeting. We will go through all of the discussion items on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We will not quite get there. You see there that the plan is for going from 3A to 3V. Then if we get to Friday morning, New York time, we will still have 3 discussion items and the information items, my program statement, and we will try to deal with all of that on Friday morning so that our time, New York, Friday afternoon, we can dedicate fully to review the draft report. So let's now look on how we're trying to deal with the report, which is important. That is what's standing after the commission. So on Wednesday, that will be our third day of the session, and we will have gone through 22 of the 25 discussion items. We will send you in the evening of New York time. We will finish here at 5 p.m. So we will be in touch with the rapporteur, and in the course of that evening New York time, we will send you the draft decisions, this informal paper that you normally have on your desk on Friday morning when you come to the conference room 4. We will send that to you on Wednesday evening. So most of you would probably have it on either on Thursday morning or get it in the course of the morning. And then you would have until most of your Thursday around the world, until 2 p.m. our Thursday, so the Americas have a little bit less to review and send us written comments, corrections. That is the equivalent of your interventions on Friday if you are in the room. We are really looking here for concrete corrections, not general comments on the report. The most helpful and constructive for us would be really that you say in draft decision 5, third paragraph, I would like to add the following half sentence or correct this formulation to and such and such and such. So then if you get that back to us on by our Thursday afternoon, which for most of the world is Thursday evening and Thursday night, you give us the opportunity to quickly canvass the horizon and perhaps identify whether there are any issues, real issues, that let's say 2 or 3 countries have made comments on the same paragraph, and we may want to connect those countries to work together towards a joint formulation to help us resolve issues on Friday afternoon. So what we will be doing with this, otherwise, all of your proposals will be accepted. We will, as a secretariat, not make any decisions. Of course, we will produce between our Thursday afternoon and Friday morning what we call the part 1 bracketed version, which will contain all of your corrections. So the more specific they are, the more clear they are, the easier it will be for your peers also to look at this bracketed version. And then there will be a part 2 of the draft decisions, which will include the agenda items that we will discuss in our Friday morning. That is 3W to 3Y, 3 agenda items. And these 2 pieces, the part 1 with your comments bracketed and part 2 without any comments, which is only perhaps a page or 2, will be sent to you by 1 p.m. our time in Friday afternoon. So that will give you 2 hours to look at that before we open our Friday afternoon session, and we'll do the usual read through under the guidance of the rapporteur and the chair to arrive on the final agreed upon language. I think that is, and then after the informal adoption or our agreement by Friday afternoon, 5 p.m., hopefully, we will then trigger the so-called formal silence procedure the same evening or the following day, but it will be going into the week after the Statistical Commission. And hopefully the silence procedure will be silent. We really expect not to have any reaction, not even a positive reaction. I mean, because that could sometimes create confusion whether the silence was broken. So ideally, um, as I sometimes like to joke, silence at the United Nations is golden. If something is proposed and everybody keeps silent, that means not necessarily that you enthusiastically support something, but you don't disagree with it and we can move forward. So that's the process for the report. I hope it is the fairest what we can do. And as I said, if we see from the bracketed versions that there are 2, 3, 4 countries that have diverging views on a particular point or on a particular paragraph, what we will be trying to do is between our Thursday afternoon and our Friday afternoon, and that's why we kept that Thursday free of a session, we will try to broker in the background an agreement. This would be the equivalent of inviting those group of people to stand together in the corner of the conference room 4 and have a consultation. For many of you, that would take place sometime on Friday, if that was necessary, or there could be email exchanges taking into account the time zone differences where perhaps a number of countries work on consensus formulation. And then when we get there on Friday afternoon, the totality of all delegates, for transparency reasons, would still see the bracketed version and have that before them, that they see everybody's concerns reflected. But in those cases where we have been able to pre-program the consensus, I would then invite one of the countries to perhaps present what is the then proposed consensus language and use that as the basis for further discussions at the Friday afternoon session of the Statistical Commission. So as you see, we really try to be transparent, and fair as much as we possibly can under these circumstances. Okay, I have, I think, 2 or 3 more slides, but I think we have touched on the most important points. One slide now is about side events. The side events have started. This is the season leading up to the Statistical Commission to get you warm, to get you in the mood, so to speak. We have had already 12 side events since the beginning of February. 47 more will be organized virtually, and there will be even some side events after the Commission in March. I would like to particularly invite you to our high-level event focusing on financing for data and statistics and the role of NSOs. I think that's a really critical theme that would be the equivalent of our Monday afternoon session. And that will be held on Wednesday, the 16th of February from 9 to 10:30 New York time. All the side events are, of course, on our website. So I would really invite you and your staff. That's one of the pluses of virtual um, meetings, is that we can open it to many more people, and it's wonderful to see that many of your staff, also from national statistical offices and partners, other stakeholders that are not necessarily even from the government or other government agencies or international organizations, civil society, everybody can be part of our very informal side events. And I hope that some of the exciting exchanges that we may not have in the formal session, because it's a little bit more UN scripted in 6 languages and time tight, and we have to, and decision oriented, that we can have a little bit of the fun of the exchange and the discussions in the side events. Okay. Frequently asked questions. We have learned from past questions. So many of the things that you have asked us in the past, last year, or even individuals have asked us, we try to move them into our website on frequently asked questions, which is organized according to these 5 categories. So even though I love to communicate with you, and we will try our best to answer all of your questions, if you shoot us an email, just always bear in mind that potentially 193 countries could ask us and shoot us emails. So if we could invite you to, if you have a question, first go to our website. And if you honestly don't find the answer, or if the website is not well organized, and so that's also helpful for us if you signal this to us. I'm not suggesting you should spend 3 hours researching our website. If you can't find the answer quickly, then there's a problem on our side, and I'll be happy to fix it. But if you find the answer, that would save us time and help us to perhaps address other issues. But of course, if you want to write to any of us, we will do our best to get back to you as quickly as we possibly can. But please do use our resource on the website as a first point of entry. Now, that takes me to the final slide, global chat. Let's chat, open discussion. You're stuck with me as the moderator. And if you have any questions, I mean, maybe some of you have already put questions into the chat. I'll have to see whether my staff has sent me something.
Stefan, at this point, there aren't any questions. So if someone wants to ask a question, they can raise their hand, or maybe you can't raise your hand, but if you can indicate to us, then we can open the mic and have them ask the questions.
That would be nice to get a sense of the globality of our meeting. If you are, please don't be shy. Show yourself. Show us from where you are connecting, morning, midday, evening, middle of the night. If you have any questions, any on the substance, on the logistics, of course.
So I see my from Geostat. Can we? I think. You or Shirley, one of you, I think, have to open that mic. So, hello?
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, hello. Pleased to be with you today. Thanks for your detailed information and really comprehensive information delivered. So just a couple of questions raised now on my mind. So regarding the written statements and also with regard to the side events. So we can understand that this is a virtual format and also everything is going not in a usual way. I mean, in previous years, we have received personal invitations in some cases for some special side events, either to be panelists or speaker or just to be to participate in some side events. So as I understand, for now it is free, and all the interested persons with the relevant positions can register and participate in any of the side events which is published on your website. And also one more question regarding the written statements. So it was also previous practice that we knew definitely under which agenda item our head of the office delivered speeches or made a statement, and that's why we are interested in on how to focus on the preparation and drafting of the written statement. We are free to choose any of the agenda items which is actual and which is really top on our agenda, or it also would be a possibility to deliver some kind of comments, as I understand, during the discussions, when discussions will be open. And also we have not received, so in your official invitation letter, there was underlined that the session will be held from March 2 to 4. So as I understand, the opening session will be on February 28th. So officially started on February 28th, right? So it was, yeah, thank you very much. And with regard the registration, everything is clear for me. So we will ask our permanent mission, and they will provide this procedure for us for the Georgian delegation. So thank you very much in advance. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your question. You've been quite brave. We will always remember you as the one who jumped in first. So please, I'm very grateful to you that you broke the ice, as we usually say. So, okay, just to reconfirm, yes, the dates. There was a change. The original dates, when we were still hoping to meet physically in New York, were 1, 2, 3, 4 March. That would correspond to Tuesday to Friday, as we always did. And when we had to take the tough decision to go virtual, which was about I don't know, recently, a couple of weeks ago, we decided to move the Thursday meeting to Monday for the reasons I explained, with trying to give us more time to resolve issues on the report. And that worked very well last year. So you're absolutely right. In some earlier communications, you may find the dates for the Statistical Commission as being 1 to 4, but the official dates now are 28 to 2nd of March, February, 28 February to 2nd of March, plus the 4th of March. And I cannot repeat it often enough. The most important document is that L1, Ref 1 being a revision, the revised timetable. So that is really what you need to prepare for. In terms of written statements, you are welcome to make written statements on any of the items. And they will be loaded. We would just invite you, when you send us your written statements, I think we have a little form on our website, that you make very clear which agenda item it is referring to, because sometimes we had problems last year. We had very valuable contributions, but we were not sure which item it was actually referring to. So please make it very, very clear that you're talking to 3F or something like that. And please submit separate statements for each item. That's why we got to 500 also. That the metric there was that these were some countries chose to submit 2 or 3 written statements on items that are particularly important to them. Some countries wrote us written statements on 10 items. You can choose to write a written statement on all items. I mean, there will be no selection on our side. We will happily take everything that's coming from your side, as long as it's clearly marked which agenda item it's referring to. I think with respect, you mentioned the side events. There is a general universal invitation to all of the side events. As they are on our website, you are welcome to go there. They may be organized differently, because it's not all organized by UNSD, by my office. So sometimes it's partners that organize it, for other UN system agencies and other partners, as we do in New York. And then sometimes, so we are only providing the room, so to speak, but some agencies use different platforms and different modalities. So you would have to look at the various side events, especially um, if you are invited as a panelist. That is still happening. I mean, I think everybody who is responsible, and as you saw, there are like 60 or 70 side events. So there are different organizers, even in my staff. I've left them a great amount of flexibility and autonomy to organize interesting discussions with panelists of their choice. So those panelists would have been invited directly and personally. But if you're not invited to be a panelist in a side event, you're still invited to be there. You're still invited to speak. Just look up when it is and how you get connected, and be part of it. So those were your questions. Perhaps also to see whether there are other questions. Let me just quickly answer a couple of questions that I saw in the chat, so that we get those out of the way, and then we can move forward. There was one on the webcast and the video. The first one, there is webcasting, and that also answers the another question that we were asked, how many accounts every delegation has. I would encourage delegations to be that perhaps you have 2 categories in your own delegations: the head of the delegations, and perhaps one or other person that needs to speak because he or she has a role as a lead of a working group or something like that. So all people who definitely have a speaking role in the Statistical Commission, or you may wish to share the speaking or interventions in your delegations, those people should be put on the official participants list, and they will be provided with the information of the Zoom. There is, I understand, a capacity limit on Zoom, so after 500, it may get a little bit shaky. So obviously, you can do the math. If we have about 100 to 150 countries and 50 agencies and partners, stakeholders registered for the Statistical Commission, then we get quickly to close to 200. So we cannot have more than, let's say, 2, under special circumstances, maximum 3 registered for potential interventions and official participation. But that doesn't mean that the rest of your office, who may have worked very, very hard and even contributed to your statements or even a report that was written, they cannot be part of the commission. We still have the web TV, the webcast, and we hope that we will get, I know that we had some technical problems last year with the sound and the recording, but I mean, ideally we would get the webcast getting them on a daily basis. I know that may be relevant for people who have the commission in the middle of the night and may want to look at it the next morning. We will try to load it as quickly as possible. So we will work with our broadcasting colleagues. I hope that explained the webcast and the number of accounts. Somebody pointed out that we are living in the past and that our high-level event is announced as high-level event 2021. Well, thank you for pointing that out. That is clearly a...
I'll just jump in for a sec. So that actually was updated. So perhaps if you refresh the browser, it will reflect the correct year.
Okay. But I always smile when these things happen. And I remember my times as a junior professional where sometimes I copied and pasted something from one source to another, and then you just forget that tiny little detail of a date or a year or anything else to adjust it. This is how we work. These are things that happen. There was a question about private companies being able to register. You can definitely tell us. We would be interested to hear from you. We have a list of observers with limited participation possibilities, but we would definitely be interested to hear from you. So if you're a private company, please do write to us and let us know who you are and why you would be interested in participated, and we would give you the relevant information how our observers can participate this year. Okay. Linda, was there any other request for the floor in the meantime?
I don't see any in the list.
I see now, and then I'm catching up with the chat. When there was a question here from India, I believe, with written statements to be sent for all the agenda points or for selective agenda points. That is your choice. I mean, I would expect that you can again do the math. We got 500 written statements last year, and we had about 100, or a little bit over 100 participants in the form of countries and official observers like UN agencies who actively participate in on partner agencies who actively participate. So we had 500 statements, so that I would say on average, perhaps a participant or delegate last year would submit between 3 and 5 or 7 written statements. But there is no limit. If you wish to submit a short contribution, even just supporting a particular program path that is suggested under a subject matter area. And you are welcome to send a short written statement saying, I support the proposed modalities of work, of this particular working group for the next year or years to come. I think that's certainly very welcome by whoever worked hard on this particular area. Okay.
Stefan, can I read you one of the questions? So
Yes.
from Peru, there's a question that if countries that state common positions through regional organizations, can they submit written statements at the individual level also?
Absolutely. I mean, I think what happened last year, what happened last year is we invited you to send written statements early, and we are doing this again. We are encouraging you to send them by the 17th of February, but I mean, that is really not, it is not a deadline, and it's a line, but nobody will be dead on the 17th of February. Interventions by countries are open up and until the moment that the chair closes a particular agenda item. So that is during the meeting. Obviously, what we're trying to do with the written statements is to gauge a little bit of where is there great consensus and or need for further discussions. And what we discovered last year with the written statements is that they are often rather homogeneous positions presented by different regions. Or not necessarily regions, also certain country types. SIDS, small island development states, are perhaps is not one region, but it's a type of country that has very common concerns. So what we did is we tried to connect those providers of written statements and encourage them not to read the written statements, but perhaps to make the main points of the written statements, to carry them into the discussions, so that they made also audible and visible for everybody else. I'm not sure that every delegate has had the time to read all 500 written statements. But I mean, we want to still carry into the actual debate as much of the essence of a particular agenda item as we possibly can. So yes, there you have the opportunity to submit individual statements, and even if a group of countries or a region agree at this very early stage now on a joint position and want to submit one written statement, we will also load it as that, and that doesn't disqualify other countries of that same region to also communicate to us written statements. So I hope that answers that question.
So related to the written statements, there's a question about for agenda items for which there are still ongoing consultations, will the deadlines for the written statements be adjusted?
Okay, I'm scrolling down. As I said, there is no such thing as a deadline for written statements. I mean, if there are situations where background documents were submitted late, or you have consultations going on with a group of countries and you want to submit as a consolidated statement a little bit later, that is fine. What we are trying to do here as a secretariat to serve you, to try to understand as early as possible where the discussions are going. And so that's why we have this suggested submission date of the 17th of February. If everybody gives us their statement on the 28th, we will all be scrambling to understand where we stand. But it's a bit like boarding a plane. Everybody is invited to come 2 or 3 hours early because you will not be able to board 300 people in the last 5 minutes. But if there are legitimate reasons and there's real work going on and you're submitting it something later, that is definitely, as I said, formally, every statement will be accepted up and until the agenda item is closed. What would be helpful for us is perhaps if you could just drop us a line and say, we are working as a group of Latin American countries on a joint statement on this and this and this agenda item, so that we are not surprised that we haven't received anything from that region, or on a particular agenda item we have only received very few submissions, and so that we know a little bit what is happening, if that's okay.
So there's a question whether private companies can register.
Yes, they can inform us of their interest. I think that would be the best way. And then we can inform them on the modalities for participation for observers.
Okay. There's a question about whether there will be any resolutions, as was in 2020.
Okay. Yes, we will have one. And thank you for that opportunity to mention this a little bit. I wanted to highlight it. As you may be aware, I had written to all of you twice. The Bureau had initiated at your invitation and at the invitation of ECOSOC, also of the parent body, it really coincided, a review of the terms of references of the Statistical Commission. As you may know, the terms of reference of the Statistical Commission are 51 years old. They stem from 1971. I like to interpret this as we have very solid foundations and they have served us well. And I think they were good as terms of reference because, I mean, they were rather generic. They did not, but of course, they were a little bit outdated by now. There were some funny references to computers and IT that were certainly good in 1971, but they don't serve us anymore. So both the Bureau had come to the conclusion that a review of the terms of reference is asked for, and ECOSOC had also asked all its subsidiary bodies to continually review its modalities of work and including its terms of references. So we had a double invitation. There was a small group working on that under the leadership of Gabriela Vukovic, the president of the Hungarian Statistical Office, who is one of our vice chairs. Um, and we had 2 global consultations. So you should have seen the evolving terms of references and modifications of the terms of references twice. We had, I believe, Linda will have to help me here, over 40, somewhere almost close to 50.
Close to 50, 49.
49, close to 50 suggestions from countries around the world, of how to modify terms of reference. Then we're not turning them upside down. Well, I think we are sharpening them, tightening them, und undusting them a little bit, bringing them into our time. So the latest version, as now reviewed by the Bureau, and is on the web as a background document to agenda item 3.
C.
What is that?
3C.
3C. That's the Bureau report. And so that's up since yesterday or the day before yesterday,
Yes,
just
yesterday.
recently. So if you haven't seen it yet, that would be perfectly understandable. But I would like to bring that to your attention. Coming back to the original question, will there be any draft resolution? That is the only draft resolution at this point that is shaping up. At this point, it looks like with all the preparations that we have conducted so far under the leadership of the Bureau and all of you, of course, is that there will be a draft resolution to ECOSOC proposing a slightly updated terms of reference for the Statistical Commission. That will take the form of a draft resolution at the very beginning of our commission report this year, and it will have to be a resolution by ECOSOC. That has to be a formal decision by our parent body. Obviously, our terms of reference are given to us by our parent body, but upon our proposal. So that's the draft resolution, and the rest will be our regular technical decisions following our agenda. That's how the report is shaping up. Now, for the draft resolution, we have tentatively set aside an informal consultation. So everybody who wants to discuss this, have clarifications, we have opened a time window at 8:30 on Tuesday morning, 8:30 morning, for an hour and a half, informal consultations on the draft resolutions, on the review of the terms of reference. So my suggestion would be that please have a look at these draft terms of references as they have shaped up as a result of the Bureau work and all of your inputs. And if you have any questions or if you feel that further inputs are needed, we will discuss this on Tuesday morning, and it's in the background document. It has all this information, and we will also announce it again on the Monday. That's why we put it on Tuesday, so that on Monday we will can announce it, and we will of course publicize the connection details, and so how do you get to that particular virtual room, so that we can have informal consultations on the proposed draft resolution.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Yeah, no, so there's a couple of questions regarding the request for oral interventions, and when the panelists or the speakers during the commission will be informed. So do you want to take that?
Linda, you want to say something perhaps about this, and then
Yes. Yeah, sorry, thanks.
thank you.
So if you're interested in taking the floor during the commission, you can actually send an email to me and Li Wang about your interest, about what agenda item that intervention would be under, and then we will work in the background on how that will happen during the commission week. So if you just let us know, and then we will of course let you know in a timely manner so that you have time to prepare interventions. And then we'll also ask for them for the interpreters. We need to have as much of all of the material to help the interpreters with their job in the background. So thank you. The other question, there's another question here about whether there'll be a test run, and there are. We're still working with our colleagues in conference services about test calls to use the Zoom platform. And then as we've mentioned, the platform will open 1 hour in advance each morning or afternoon, so an hour before the session. Before the meeting. And you can then, during that hour, ask the technician to test your equipment. So there was a question about the availability of chat on the web TV. And as far as the webcasting does not have a chat feature. So if there is a comment that wants to be made, it needs to be made within the Zoom platform under that when that agenda item is up. We will post the presentation from today on the website for the global chat so that you can access the presentation. For the rest of the side events, we have, for UNSD organized side events, there are individual web pages where all the materials will be posted as colleagues provide them. For external side events, we, to the extent that organizers put the information on the link that is included in the calendar, that information will all be included there. I don't think I addressed if there's a deadline to request the floor. I mean, I think it's let us know as soon as possible after the written statements are provided. Do we have a deadline, Stefan? I don't remember. I don't think.
No, I mean it's a we hope to have even a little bit of interaction as we get to the agenda items. As I said, this is a written statement and an oral interventions are basically the same, and the gavel really falls when the gavel falls. I mean, when the chair says, I'm concluding the discussion on this agenda item, then that is the end of that particular discussion string. But I mean, we would, if you have interest to present, to actually intervene, let us know. We had called, I mean, officially, but let me be clear again. I mean, one thing I think which would not be very helpful for all of the other delegates is if people read their written statements. I mean, I think as we had many, you can clearly see that that would not be sustainable. But I think to make key points of your written statements, that would be a welcome addition to the session. But if we see that many delegates go in the same direction, we may want to, as a secretariat, facilitate for the more executive run of the meeting that similar positions be represented either by one speaker or one regional representative or something like that. That is a little bit of a back and forth, and it was a little bit messy. And I'll be honest with you, last year we had sometimes people asking for the floor, and we said, yeah, that would be fine. And then we had like 3 more people asking for the floor, giving us the impression that they would say generally the same thing. So we went back to the first person and said, would you mind not taking the floor and perhaps talk to this particular delegate who now has asked for the floor, and that delegate has not spoken previously or under any other agenda item. Would be nice to see many different voices to reflect the richness of our statistical community and not have always the same people intervene. But of course, that is ultimately the prerogative of the countries. And so, I mean, we are trying to collect and facilitate. That's what we are doing. And it's an ongoing process. And it has to be going back and forth a little bit. And we ask for your cooperation. I see I was now able, by delegating work to Linda, I was able to scroll to this chat, and I will really thank you for all of the interventions. There are so many good questions here. I hope we have answered most of them. Let me, material, we will make all the material, of course, available, and even including today's material on the website. There was a little bit, I mean, this, I wanted to make, I had made a note anyway to make a little bit of a reflection share with you on the chat. Um, the UN Web TV doesn't have a chat, so that's a rather passive, more consumptive mode of communication, participation in the meeting. The delegates that are registered and that are on Zoom, they will have the opportunity not only to intervene, but also to follow the chat. Now, we were wondering what is the nature of the chat, and I was seeking legal advice. The chat is a chat. I mean, it is. I mean, we had very mixed uses of the chat. There were just friendly greetings, as you can see today, and then it's sort of the part of the human connection, and I would very much like to maintain that. So the informality of it. But there is every now and then a really important substantive point made. What I would like, what I think the chat could be very helpful would be actually to support something that somebody has said, because that would save us all time. Like if the delegate from one country has just made a particularly strong statement about, voiced a strong concern about a particular point and wishes this to be reflected, and if a number of countries put in the chat that you support that, I think that would give everybody a sense of the urgencies and the importance of this particular item. So expressing support, I think, is good. What I also saw sometimes in the chat last year, which I found very valuable and useful, is sometimes small country examples of why a particular point is very important to sort of make it more palpable of why this is really important for a SITS country to have this and that type of support. So I think that makes our meeting a lot more human and lively and understandable. But every now and then there is also a proposal that is really important in the chat. Technically, we are not supposed to take proposals that were only made in the chat um, into the report. So if your intention is really to make a unique contribution of something that has not been said with the intention to bring that into the report, then you would have to take the floor. And you can still take the floor in the meeting, pressing the button and making it clear that you want to intervene and perhaps make that one particular point. And we hope that could work. Then we can pick it up. We will also have something that there's a new professional category in my office. They are the so-called chat watchers. So in all of my subject matter areas, there will be people who will just watch the chat. And if a proposal is made and we are not clear whether somebody just wants to give us an example or wants us to follow up informally, or whether that is really an important, unique point that should be made publicly, I mean, clearly, audibly, then we will engage with you and talk back to you and encourage you to take the floor. Or alternatively alert the chair of a particular point so that the chair can pick up a point from the chat. So that's how we are planning to manage the chat. We did not, there was also one question last year whether we could publish the chat. We chose ultimately also upon advice internally in the house not to do that, to load the chat. Because I mean, even though it's public in that moment, I mean, some of the chat interventions are a bit light or funny or silly. And I don't know whether people who made their chat intervention on that basis uh, want to have that broadcast for eternity on a website. And I would like to keep the lightness of the chat because I believe we have enough official and formal avenues to intervene so that important points don't get lost, and we still have that parallel mechanism of a friendly chat. So I hope that helped a little bit from our side. Were there any other questions here? Linda?
So there is one question, but you addressed this earlier regarding the number of delegates and whether there's actually a deadline for registration.
Deadline for registration? Yes, I don't think there's a formal deadline, but of course, in order for us to have, I think if you can register as quickly as possible, it would be really helpful for us because we do two elements of due diligence. I mean, if we get a written statement right now, and it is clearly from somebody who is part of this professional community, and somebody we know, and we will load it immediately. But if we get a written statement right now, and it is from an email address, possibly a private email address, I sometimes joke, and I totally understand that some of you chief statisticians operate with your private email address, and that is not less legitimate as a government email address. But if it's an acronym, if it is JDC at yahoo.com, and somebody asks me to load this as a government position on an agenda item, and I don't know what JDC stands for, that makes it a little bit difficult for us. So please don't be angry with us if we go back and double check with you, because unfortunately in the virtual world and the internet things happen, and we may get, I don't want to get an email saying a country feels strongly that the SNA review should be postponed to 2035, and it's a hoax, and we load it as a government position, and then I'm in an unpleasant situation with that government. So the sooner we have an official list of who is speaking for you, who are your official delegates, and also when we are in the meeting then and you're asking for the floor, and before we give you the floor, the technicians will double check whether you are on the official delegates list for this meeting and not somebody who just happened to get this Zoom connection and crashes the party a little bit. So if I could encourage all of you to really, that is perhaps the number one thing to do right now, is to make sure that your registration goes through with a limited number of delegates, sort of mostly those that are really have the intent to actively participate in the Zoom session. As I said, I would hope that this virtual format makes it possible that many more people in your offices can actually participate and travel to New York, at least virtually, especially younger staff. I find that the virtual universe has at least has many disadvantages, but it gave some of my younger colleagues much more opportunities to be connected into really interesting global discussions. And I hope that you would be able to do that also with the Statistical Commission and your stuff.
Thank you. So just one thing to follow up on the registration process is for member states, you have to go through the e-delegate through your permanent missions, like I had said earlier. And I've been told by our colleagues that the means of communicating the connection details are really through that e-delegate portal through the missions. So thank you. I don't see any other questions, I think, and I don't see any hands. So Stefan, if you want to have some closing comments, and I just want to thank everyone from my side for joining and being active today. Thank you. So Stefan, please.
No, so thank you. I mean, we had numbers in the high, far way well over 100, and that makes me look forward to the meeting and confirms that we are alive and kicking in a very vibrant global community. Please bear with us. Some of the things we are making up as we go along. There may also be changes. I'm committed to the fundamental principles that I stated at the beginning. Everybody who wants to participate and has a role to play, we will make sure that each and every one of you is connected and has the possibility of making a substantive contribution to the global management of our statistical programs. That we will not tire to do that. So please be in touch with us. If there are any issues, sometimes we are also constrained because we wish, as a group of statisticians, I would sometimes like to do, and statisticians are, I think, more IT savvy than the average delegate in New York. I hope I'm not getting myself into trouble by saying stuff like that. But I think we could do some things differently, but we also have to respect the intergovernmental formal nature of some of the UN interactions, and we follow the rules of ECOSOC, so we are the subsidiary body, and we have to be in line and in step with other bodies. That gives us in return the benefit of being elevated at the highest level and participating at very high level debates, policy debates in the United Nations. We have our clear place and space there, and I'm looking forward to maintaining that. So we will do whatever we can. Please be in touch. Please help us make this happen. I thank you ahead of time. And perhaps the three most important things to do right now is number one, register, be in touch with your permanent mission, make sure that that formality is out of the way. Number two, look at the written statements that you would wish to contribute. In the material, the extraordinarily rich material in so many reports is out there. So make your voice heard and work on your written statements. And three, enjoy and have fun with the side events that are happening. Look at what's happening there. Participate yourself or make those people in your office that have a certain interest on a certain topic participate, and let's have fun together. So that's 1, 2, 3. Register, written statements, side events right now. And we will keep in touch. You may see me spam your inbox a little bit more. I will send you Statistical Commission updates whenever there's something important. So bear with me. I will send you a few more messages. And of course, our website is the go-to place. We update it sometimes several times per day. So we hope that you can find everything you need there. So thank you again for your participation and being in touch. Wonderful greetings I see here in the chat. Thank you. That makes me really feel good that we are connected with people around the world. Thank you and have a good day and take good care of yourself. Bye.